slapdick prospect? No, last check was not one of the names. But we're going to let you know who will join us when we know. Really appreciate our guys over at the Rays, Elvis and the boys, helping us out every Tuesday, getting us a Rays player so you guys can hear about what's going on inside the locker room. Rays in first place. Yankees were off yesterday, so they gained a half a game. Still 3 games up in the loss column, 3.5 overall, but the loss column is really where you need to be fixated on. But the Rays got Ian Seymour tonight. We'll talk to a mystery Rays player in the 3 o'clock hour. Then at 4:05, great friend of the program, one of the great football minds that I know, and he's a heck of a nice guy too, and he's got a new gig. Trevor Sikkema, now with NFL Media, will join us at 4:05. We'll talk to him about the Bucs and all things NFL. Can't wait to talk to my guy, Trev. You know, I ran into his parents at Noble Tavern a couple of months ago. Great people, by the way. And we'll talk to Trevor Sikkema. He will join us coming up at 4:05. Can't wait to talk to him there. Then at 4:30, blank will lead the league in sacks for the Buccaneers. Fill in the blank is coming up at 4:30. It could be a number of guys. It could be Ruben Bain. It could be Yaya Diaby. Could it be Kalijah Kancey? Remember when Kalijah Kancey said, I think it was 2 training camps ago, if I stay healthy for 17 games, that I think I can lead the league in sacks. I think he said something along those lines. He just needs to stay healthy. Because if he's healthy, this Buccaneer front 7 will be a force to be reckoned with, I think, moving forward. They weren't today, however. Up in Jacksonville, Buccaneers and the Jaguars with a joint practice. How did it go? And is there a chance something gets done with Baker Mayfield before the season begins? Buccaneer Talk is the theme of our opening drive here on a 2 for Tuesday.
Tampa Bay Sports Radio presents the opening drive.
An impressive opening drive.
What an opening drive.
With T-Kraz.
So the Buccaneers are in Jayville, and they're mixing it up with our good buddy, and I use that term loosely, Liam Cohen and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it did not go well today for the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers admitted as such. There were a couple of interceptions by Baker Mayfield, and Chris Godwin had some interesting comments. Now, the sound quality is not great when it comes to what Chris Godwin said, but he said something to the effect of the energy was down and we need to get our heads out of our you-know-whats. And coming from Chris Godwin, that is an eye-opening statement. Now, he is one of the elder statesmen on this team. With Mike Evans gone, obviously, he's taking on more of a leadership role. And today, this is what leaders do. When the team is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, when they're not bringing the energy to the practice field, when they're not showing what they're all about, they're not being fast and physical, they're being outplayed. Nobody wants to get embarrassed out there, and that's what these joint practices are. You're going up against another team, and there are a lot of people watching, and you know there are a lot of reporters out there tweeting, live tweeting from practice. Nobody wants to get shown up. But today, the Buccaneers got shown up a little bit. They were outworked and out-physical by the Jags. To the point where Chris Godwin came out and said, listen, I don't know what the hell we just did out there, but it's not good enough by our standards, and it's got to get better. And I commend Chris Godwin for coming out and making those comments. And once we get a cleaner cut of that audio, we're going to play for you a little bit later on, but that's what leaders are supposed to do. And sometimes you need a practice like this. Look, it's practice, right? It's not a regular season game. You still have 2.5, almost 3 weeks to go before the real games begin. September the 13th at Cincinnati against Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Dexter Lawrence and company. But it did not go well today, and I'm hoping that the Buccaneers can bounce back in a big way tomorrow. Here's Baker Mayfield. He talked about what went wrong today on the practice field, and he just said the Jaguars were just flying around, and we weren't.
It's tough. I thought, they gave us some good looks. They were playing with their hair on fire, I'll say that. we definitely, if this was a full game, I don't think we would have come out on the winning side of it. So just a little eye-opening. Got to get back and watch the tape. You know, it's never as good or as bad as you think it is, but I think from my standpoint, they out-physicaled us, and that's never what you want to have.
A blunt assessment from Baker Mayfield. And he is one of the leaders on this team, obviously. So you have two of your leaders stepping up and saying, hey, whatever happened out there was not good enough. That's not what we're all about. Now, the good news is it's just a joint training camp practice, and we've seen many of these. You know, they practiced against the Jets a couple of weeks ago. There was a few fights in there in between, which, you know, you don't mind necessarily, but it's kind of frowned upon by the coaching staff. And DeMonte Capehart took part in one of the scuffles earlier in practice where I guess some punches were thrown. That's a rookie, you know. Rookies get out there, and what rookies have to understand is there's a certain way to conduct yourself. There's a certain way how to practice and how not to practice. So somebody's got to get a hold of him, and they need to explain to him, whether it's somebody in the coaching staff, whether it's Todd Bowles, whether it's one of the players. And Vita Vea was out there practicing, by the way. So I think it's incumbent upon Vita Vea to go to this kid and say, hey, that's not how we practice around here. That's not how we do things. Because if you do that during a game, it's a 15-yard penalty, and you set us back. And then guess what? Your ass is coming out of the game. So there's got to be a little bit more discipline. Kind of rookie mistake. If you're going to make a rookie mistake, do it in a training camp practice. Do it in a joint practice so that you learn from that mistake. So when you get an opportunity to play in a real game, you got to play focused. You got to play within yourself. You got to play with some sort of restraint and discipline. So hopefully he'll learn from that. But Vita Vea did practice, and I got to say, from the video that I saw, what a miraculous recovery from the back injury. Damn. His back didn't look tight at all out there today up in Jacksonville. I can tell you that for a fact. So it was good to see Vita Vea getting out there practicing because, look, you got to get this guy in football shape. And, look, I think 2.5 weeks until the opener, he's already in good shape, which is good. Now we just got to get the practice reps under him. And, look, he's a veteran. He knows what it's all about. And I think he's going to be good to go as long as nothing gets tweaked between now and September the 13th. All right, so we promised it to you. We have it. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to Chris Godwin. This is a clean-cut piece of audio from after practice with a scathing assessment on how his team did today against the Jags.
I think we had some good things going on. I felt like we started to practice offensively. We started to practice pretty good. I felt like we finished it pretty good, but we had like a bit of a lull in the middle. And I guess like you expect when you're going up against a good team, that there's going to be some back and forth. So like nothing too concerning, but like sometimes we just got to have like more energy and like we got to bring it. You know what I mean? We have to generate our own energy, especially when we're on the road. Because like in a situation like this, if it's a game, it's going to be a hostile environment. So we got to be able to like pull our heads out of our asses sometimes and get back on track.
No. You insulted him a little bit.
You get a little out of yourself, but he was right. And he talked about going to a hostile environment. Well, guess what? That's going to be the case week 1 in Cincinnati on opening day against a high-powered offense. And the Buccaneers will likely have to keep up with Joe Burrow and company that day. I am expecting the defense to be much improved over a year ago when I'm looking on that side of the ball. And I saw Liam Cohen. He had some comments like, their defense is fast. And he was talking about the Bucs, especially the front seven. He was very complimentary of his former team, Liam Cohen was. But he had a lot of great things to say about the Bucs defense. He had a lot of great things to say about his good buddy, Zach Robinson, who's now the offensive coordinator. Zach Robinson and Liam Cohen, very close friends. And I think if there are going to be concepts incorporated into this offense from the Liam Cohen offense back in 2024, where Baker had an incredible year, then I think the Buccaneers will be on the right track. But look, no sense in panicking or being concerned or whatnot. It's the dog days of training camp. And you're going up against another team, another set of players, another scheme. And today, the Buccaneers got outworked. That's today. If it happens again tomorrow, you don't want to see that, certainly. You want to see some bounce back. And hopefully it happens tomorrow with the preseason finale scheduled for Friday night up there. Todd Bowles, by the way, said after practice he's not sure if any of the starters will play in that preseason finale on Friday night. I'm guessing no. But the good news was Tristan Wirfs was there practicing, and Vita Vea was there and practicing. So two very big players, figuratively and literally, to the Buccaneers' hopes for 2026 were back out there and practicing. So you want to see those guys get back out there, get back into the swing of things, get some good work in, with all eyes centered around September 13th. Because Friday night doesn't matter. It's September the 13th. You got to get ready mentally and physically for that date. And they'll play the last preseason game on Friday night. A lot of guys will be playing for their jobs. And then they have the one and only cutdown date, where the Buccaneers will have to get down to 53 by Sunday. So a lot of big decisions will have to be made. I don't expect the starters to play on Friday. I expect a lot of the young guys to play, the guys that are on the bubble. That's who I expect will play on Friday, as the Buccaneers will try and figure out. For instance, and we talked about this yesterday, how many receivers are we going to keep? Is it 6? Is it 7? If it's 7, who's the 7th guy? If you're 6 or 7, you've got to be able to play special teams. Right now, from my count, number 6 is Cam Johnson, because he is big in the return game, and you saw him the other night against the Chiefs. He can catch some balls. He's really good in terms of the jet sweeps, the screen game. He's got some quickness to him. He can return kicks. So if you're one of the guys toward the end, like the 4th linebacker, the 6th or 7th receiver, the 4th running back, you better be able to play special teams. You better stand out on special teams for Danny Smith and company on Friday night. Because if you don't, you're probably not going to make the team. Now, there are two guys that we've been talking about that we think will make the team. One is Aiden Garnes, an undrafted free agent out of Arizona, the defensive back. I think he's been fantastic. I think he has earned his way onto this team. Kudos to him. And the other is Jalen Daniels, undrafted free agent quarterback out of Kansas, who's been very good throughout the summer. He's been very good in the first 2 preseason games. I see a lot of people overreacting, though, on social media in terms of what this kid should be for this Buccaneer team. I think at the very least you've got a developmental quarterback who's vying for QB2. And I saw some people say, wow, you should be QB1. I mean, are you out of your mind at this point? We played 2 preseason games. Let's slow down on that. Has he made the team? Yes. I think the Buccaneers will have to carry 3 quarterbacks, which means 1 less position elsewhere. And it's going to come down to the kind of work that takes place this week and in Friday night's preseason finale. Like if Jalen Daniels goes out there on Friday night and does it again for a 3rd time, then you could make the case that he could be quarterback 2. And you heard John Gruden on the show yesterday. John feels like he's won that job. He has, according to John. And John has been raving about Jalen Daniels up until this point. And Jalen Daniels has done some great work. And what people also need to realize, the ones that are saying he's already locked in at 2, he's going to be threatening for 1, which is just nonsense at this point. It's the preseason. And nobody is gearing up to stop him. There are no game plans here. It's very vanilla. Everything's being held back. So let's just pump the brakes on Jalen Daniels. Maybe QB2 at the very least. Maybe he can stop. Stop with that. Speaking of QB1, Baker Mayfield. We had John Gruden on the show yesterday. And I thought John said a number of really interesting things. In case you missed it, 957wda.com. We talked to him about the broadcast that he had with Rondé Barber over the weekend. I thought John did an exceptional job there. We also talked some Buccaneer football. High hopes and aspirations for this team. And I also asked John about Baker Mayfield. He and Ron, they talked to Baker during the broadcast. Baker, obviously, in the contract year. We don't know if anything's happening behind the scenes. Now, Jason Light was on this here show, and I asked him, look, is it possible that maybe you go back to Baker's agent at some point? And Jason wouldn't rule that out. But here's John Gruden, and listen to what he says about Baker Mayfield and a possible deal perhaps before the season. Does John know something here?
I can't speak like I have any inside scoop, but I will promise you this, they're not very far away. And I would assure Buccaneer fans, this is no distraction for Baker Mayfield whatsoever. This guy is on the rock, man. He is on the bullseye. This guy's really focused, dead set on winning here with Tampa Bay. But I do have a lot of confidence in Jason Light. The Glazers, I think everybody, every party included, wants to get this done. And I think they're a lot closer than people realize. But I would expect it to get done indeed.
Wow. John Gruden from our show here yesterday. They're not far apart. They're closer than you think. Is there dialogue taking place? It wouldn't surprise me. Now, Baker has said, look, I don't want to talk. You talk to my agent. So whatever happens will happen between Jason Light and Baker's agent. But it would not surprise me to see the Buccaneers maybe have a last-ditch effort at doing it. And it's got to come from them, right? It's not going to come from Baker. Baker's already said he doesn't want to talk. It's not going to come from his agent. If there's going to be some sort of last-ditch effort in order to try and get Baker secured and have that squared away so that he can concentrate on football and his vengeance tour for 2026, that move has to be made by the Buccaneers in this negotiation, not by the employee. Sometimes, there's an offer, and then there's a counter offer, and then it's up to the employer to go back to the employee. And I think that's where we're at. Not just with Baker, by the way, but that's where we're at. 888-388-0957. So I just thought that was interesting out of John. John also had some other things to say. We know about his love for Jalen Daniels, Chris Mathis. Play that cut. John Gruden thinks Jalen Daniels is a keeper.
This kid gets in the game. I see him audibling at the line of scrimmage. Granted, he had a couple false starts that I always put on the quarterback in the New York game. I also saw a couple fumble exchanges that are a problem. I put that on him in the Kansas City game. But if you're basing everything on performance, I think this kid has won the job, provided he closes it out in Jacksonville with another solid performance.
I like that. John Gruden from our show yesterday. So John obviously is a quarterback guy. He's an offensive guy. The fumble exchanges, the offside, certainly on the quarterback. And look, that's what the preseason is for. He's an undrafted free agent. He's a rookie. Nobody drafted him, and that's remarkable to me that nobody drafted this kid after he played a lot of football, 49 games at Kansas. He started 45 of them, threw quite a few touchdowns. Completion percentage for his college career was around 61%. I mean, if you're going to succeed in the NFL, that number's got to be 64, 65%. So there's still some room for improvement, but the raw ability is there, and he displays a tremendous amount of poise as well for that position. And from the moment he stepped on that field, he galvanized the team. That was completely evident on Saturday night against the Chiefs. And you also love the fact that, he thinks outside of the box. Remember, he drew Kansas City offsides on that 3rd and short opportunity, which got the Buccaneers a first down. And he talked about that after the game. He's like, look, I told my guys in the huddle, let's do a hard count here. Let's get them to jump off sides on the other side. Get a first down. And that's exactly what happened. I love that moxie out of him. I love his energy. I love his enthusiasm. He's got a live arm. There's a lot to like out of Jalen Daniels. And he's absolutely competing to be the QB2. And right now, if I were to handicap it, I think he's got the slight lead over Jake Browning. People just need to be careful about, anointing him as the next guy, because we are playing in the preseason, and nobody is really gearing up to stop you. No one's game planning against you. Let's see what he does Friday. If you make it 3 for 3 on Friday, then you've got yourself a serious case. He's already made the team. I think the Buccaneers are going to have to carry 3 quarterbacks because of his emergence this summer. And if he does it on Friday, 3 for 3, then he may very well be QB2 when the season opens up. All right, great to have you with us here on The Drive on WDAE. 888-388-0957. Text at 82945. So there you have it. Chris Godwin with some eye-opening comments. Baker Mayfield agreed. It was great to see Tristan Wirfs and Vita Vea back in the practice field. The Jags got one on the Buccaneers today in joint practice number 1. They will have another joint practice tomorrow, and then the preseason finale Friday night. We'll talk to Trevor Sikkema, NFL media. He'll join us at 4:05. We'll talk to him about his new gig. We'll talk all things Bucs, about Baker, about the deal for Vita Vea. How good can the Buccaneers be in 2026? Trevor Sikkema will join us at 4:05. We've got Fill in the Blank later. Don't forget, in the 3 o'clock hour, in the next hour, a mystery Rays player will also join us here on the program. Who will that be? We'll talk more about the Rays in a matter of moments. On the way back here on The Drive, great to have you with us on this 2 for Tuesday. The Buccaneers will win double-digit games in 2026. Take it or leave it. That is coming up next here on The Drive. Stay